How's it going, everybody? Derek from Make Media Studios, and this week I'm sitting here with Jaime Escalera. He's up in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle region. He's a photographer. You need to check out his Instagram. The link is down below. Jaime, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's so much fun to be here.
Thanks, bud. No, man, I've seen your content online. It looks amazing. I've gone to Seattle myself, and like some of the shots of the Ferris wheel and things like that are some of the things I tried to get, but yours are incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Give me a little, so people out there can know a little bit more about you. Who are you and what do you do?
As you said, my name is Jaime Escalera. I'm pretty much born and raised in Seattle. Been here my whole life. And I guess what people know me here for, or what people are, tuning in for is I became a photographer about 3 years ago.
Okay.
It just kind of started on a random thing. I just kind of bought a camera from one of my friends and with no intention of like becoming a photographer. I was just like, I'll just buy this camera.
Okay.
And it just kind of slowly took over, and that's pretty much all I do now. I just shoot photography, and I travel around all around Washington as much as I can to try to get some stuff.
That's awesome. So like 3 years ago, starting out with photography, you bought your first camera. What was the first camera? What'd you get? I
got a Canon T3i.
Canon T3i.
Yeah, so it actually, in technicality, the first camera I ever like really owned was a T1i.
Okay.
And I got that camera, and I used it kind of. I had that camera. I tried to shoot with it, and I'm like, man, this is too much. I don't want to learn this. I have no idea how this camera works.
Okay.
Aperture, ISO, like I'm confused. I watched a couple YouTube videos, and I was like, I just needed some money at the time, so I resold it.
Right.
And then, my friend a couple years down the road asked me if I wanted to get his T3i, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I have a little more free time, and let's see if I can give this thing another try. And everything just kind of, for some reason, clicked. I feel like the videos I watched back then, when I felt like they kind of sunk in somehow. It just, everything made a bit more sense. And
once you start once you watch those videos a little bit and then let it sink in, you start to understand it a little bit more. So were you watching YouTube tutorials? Is that kind of how you started with your photography?
Yeah, pretty much YouTube videos. Everything I did is pretty much self-taught, up to a certain point, of course. For the most part, it was getting involved and getting into it was all, just YouTube and trying to figure out what does what. And I had recently moved, shortly after I got the T3i, I moved downtown.
Okay.
So, I got a job at Amazon, and I moved downtown, and that's what I still do now. I still work at Amazon. Nice. That's my full-time paid gig. So I just made it a habit of taking my camera out like 3 times a week, and with no intention of shooting anything, just like roaming the city,
right,
and seeing what I can get, and
I'm guessing this is something you did that I don't do. When you went out and roamed with your camera, you said 3 times a week. You have it out and in your hand, right? You're not just, it's not packed away in a bag. It's not like in the little compartment, because that's my fault. Like when I go out and travel photography, the camera needs to be in my hand. If I don't, then it's like I feel like I have to set up the shot and think, overthink it. So
totally.
What's your tactic?
And it takes more time. So when I started in the beginning, it was really just keeping my camera in my hand. And when I first started, I remember having that feeling of like people are looking at me, that I'm like trying to like tuck in this corner, or like lay on the ground, or like I felt like I was being weird, or if I wanted to get like a shot that's like in the middle of the street, I was always worried about like people like honking at me, or like get out of the road, and once you kind of get over this little fear of just, I don't know,
it's in a way, it's a small form of stage fright. I mean, in a way, right? It's kind of like, because you're
100%,
because you're like in front of people, and I understand what you're saying. Like it's like you get bogged down because you think that they're staring at you, but they're not. They're wondering what you're doing. but they're not judging you, because if anything, they're
Right.
probably looking at you going, oh man, I kind of wish I did that.
Yeah, they're almost like looking at with like curiosity, like, hey, what's going on over there?
Exactly.
Like, what is he looking at? You know, and every once in a while you'll get somebody that come up to you and say, hey, like, what are you doing? And I'll show them a picture, and they're like, oh, that's actually really cool. You know, it's like, so yeah, it was just a bit of stage fright, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Just kind of getting comfortable. You know, now I can just like in the middle of like, you know, this is probably not the right thing, you know, but like in the middle of like heavy traffic, I'm like in the middle of the street, like, hold on, just wait a second, you know, this is 2 seconds out of your day, trust me, you'll be fine, you know.
Yeah.
So now I'm like fearless. I go wherever, I shoot whatever I want, and if I need to get something, I try to get it done.
I think that's still something that I need to get better at, is going out and shooting.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you to deep dive for me into how so you say you go out 3 times a week when you started, but now do you plan a location? How do you go about, or you just go out on an adventure? You know, do you just go find a spot, or do you like look into it?
You know, I think a lot of it nowadays, it's like, I kind of think ahead, like what I'm going to do,
right.
You know, I have like, you know, Instagram again, in the very beginning, I think one of the reasons what also helped me get involved aside from like getting a new camera is I created an Instagram account. And when I created that Instagram account, I really wanted to prove myself as a photographer. You know, the easy route would have been convert my already existing like 500 followers with all my friends,
right.
Convert it into my photography friend or photography page. And boom, I'm starting out like 500 followers, like off the bat, you know? But I really, really wanted to prove myself. I really wanted to earn everything I got from photography. So I created a brand new page with 0 follows, and man, that was hard.
Yeah.
That was really hard. Just to like get noticed and get seen and build a name, I guess, you know.
What was your how did you do it? Like, what did you feel like? What was the turning point?
I feel like when I first started, I was trying everything. Okay. You know, like I was trying
everything.
And that goes as far as like what I'm shooting. You know, I tried to shoot kind of everything, and I tried to like edit different ways, and which I think is all great. You know, I think it's kind of a necessity to do that.
Learn your style,
but I also
learn what you like. Definitely.
100%. Yeah. But I feel like as far as someone that is trying to follow you, they don't know what to expect from you if you're changing so much. Mm-hmm. So once I kind of like dialed in a little bit more what I wanted and what I was loving so much about other photographers, like I would look at other photographers that I was like, you know, idolizing, you know, and like, what are they doing? How are they setting up this? What's going on in their brain when they're putting their camera here? Like, what is the balance here? What is, you know, I try to diagnose like every part of the image. And yeah, once I kind of like dialed that in, so I dialed down like the style and the way I'm shooting and what I'm shooting. And then I also dialed in, I tried to be like, when I do hashtags and like ats and when I do all that stuff, I was really broad.
Right.
I was really broad. I was trying to get everybody from all angles of Instagram.
Were you trying to do all 30 hashtags? You know what I'm talking about?
I still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still do all 30 hashtags. I still do all 20
tags.
Tags. Yeah, and so I still do that. However, like before, it would be like you know, Insta good and like Instagram hashtag or like photo, you know, very
hashtag
broad.
Hashtag
hashtag like photo of the day. You know,
right? Yeah.
And so what I really kind of dialed it in to just be exactly what I'm doing. So I dialed in pretty much to like, I only did hashtags about Northwest, about Washington, about Seattle.
Okay.
Just so I can like really dial in my what people are looking for me for, you know, or what I specialize in. And I feel like once I kind of dialed everything in, everything started to pick up a little bit more. Okay. You know, everybody's just like, that's what I feel like worked for me. It could be different for anybody else, but that's kind of the path I took.
Okay.
I like really, really dialed into Seattle.
And then you're a moderator on at Pacific Northwest Shooters, right? That's the other.
Yep.
Is that yours, or did you just get on? Yep, there it is. Did you?
There it is.
That will also be tagged down below. Is that your page, or was that a group of people that came together and built that?
So that was it was already a page before I got involved with it. I'm in it with a couple of my friends, Ryan Ditch Photo, which is another amazing photographer. You should check him out. And also Parker Briquette.
Okay.
You should also check him out on Instagram. They're amazing guys. And the team basically, they needed to kind of like revamp their team.
Okay.
And so they kind of parted ways with a couple of people, and then they picked me up. And yeah, that's been a huge blessing for me. I got them when I was very, very early in my account. I had like maybe 1,000 followers, and to become like a part of Pacific Northwest Shooters was like a big deal.
Yeah.
The guy Ryan Ditch Photo, he's like one of our main guys. He was like one of the guys that he was like my biggest inspiration. I was really diagnosing his photos like all the time. Like, what is he doing? How is he setting up his shots? You know, how is he editing? And I tried to reach out a few times, and we had like a little bit of back and forth on Instagram. And when Pacific Northwest Shooters had their first meetup, it was the first time I actually met Ryan Ditch. And it just felt like when I met him and I seen him and we caught up, it felt like we were friends for a long time. Okay. You know what I mean? And even though we've only briefly talked on Instagram and kind of noticed each other's work, so it was nice to finally meet him. And I think like just because our connection and how we just got along so well, is one of the reasons why. I remember after the meet, I was like, I don't want to ask if I could be a part of the team yet, because the meet was just yesterday. I'm going to let that sink in for a little bit. Maybe I'll get a little more back and forth with Ryan before I kind of say like, hey, let me just throw my hat in the ring. You know, I'm interested if you guys are opening. If there's no openings, like no big deal. I understand. And like I was waiting a couple of days for that to happen, and right before I was going to send him a message, he actually reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of the team. So
nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it worked out great.
That was your first main. See, like I just moved to LA, and I lived in California all my life, but I lived in Northern California, and being down here, I don't know too many people. Was that your like way to kind of network with people in your area, doing that meetup? Or like now that you know these people, you have more photographers that you can go out and shoot with, right?
100%, yeah.
And that probably helps out. I think having some friends that also shoot as well.
Oh man, it's a blessing, man. There's so many people I can connect with now, and I could put this out there that Pacific Northwest Shooters is a branch of a World Shooters team.
Okay.
So there is also World Shooters, and then we have like 10 teams or something like that.
Oh wow.
So there's like Bay Shooters, which is in San Francisco. There's LA Shooters, there's Southwest Shooters, there's Philly Shooters, there's New York Shooters, there's Chicago Shooters, and then there's UK Shooters, and we have Portrait Shooters and UK. There's a bunch of shooters teams.
That's really cool.
If you want to find out more about them, you can look up World Shooters at World Shooters.
All right, I'll put that down below
on Instagram. Yeah, and check out all of our teams, and the whole premise of our brand is we're just trying to bring photographers in specific areas. We're just trying to create a community, a place where people can come and meet other photographers, whether you're a brand new photographer or a professional. It's just a way to all come together, share this passion of photography, and have more people to shoot with.
Dude, I'm going to check out those as well, because all I've seen is the Pacific Northwest ones. I'll check out the World ones and the LA one. Definitely. I think that networking is definitely key in all this, because it's all word of mouth. I mean, I'm not sure how much you have stepped away from business side of the house. Like, I don't know. Let me ask you about it a little bit. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm a videographer, and I do corporate gigs. I do interviews. I do things like that. As a photographer, how do you start doing it as a freelancer? Like, what's that first step outside of your normal job?
So I think a lot of it is for me anyway, I think like selling prints is a small part, you know,
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
You can sell prints, and those are a kind of trickle thing, you know.
Right.
They just kind of come when they come, and it's a nice thing to have. But I think what really helps out is, especially, so there's me as a photographer by myself, and I'll speak on that first.
Okay.
I think eventually you'll get people to reach out to you on Instagram. At least that's how it's been for me.
Okay.
Smaller brands, smaller companies will reach out and say, and that's a lot of trade work, you know?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we'll give you all of this, you know, all these products if you could just take some product shots, like while you're out on your trips or while you do this thing. And that's a good way to just get comfortable and get used to things like that. And I think even for me right now, that's still kind of the main part of what I do with brands is a lot of trade work.
Right.
I haven't really done a whole lot of like hired on gigs.
Right.
But that's definitely something that I'm trying to build a portfolio for, and get more involved with that.
And the trade work, that's good because you're still networking with these companies. You're learning how to deal with clients. We're all good.
Yeah. I just double checking.
We're all good. Yeah, you're still able to work with clients. You're still learning how to deal with that. I mean, I work with like corporations and companies, but I haven't done too much brand work. So that's interesting. I saw that you are a brand ambassador for Polar Pro.
Yes.
How did that come about?
This was crazy, man. Again, if you look at like Polar Pro is like they're known as being like one of the best in the business for filters. And if you look at their ambassadors, like
You get Peter McKinnon.
they have like big names. Yeah, they have big names. And so but like one day, and again, this is back when I had like 3,000 followers, maybe like 5,000, I don't know. But I went to their page, and I was looking to get some of their products, and I was saving money to get their products. And so I was on their page, and I scrolled down to the bottom of their page, and it says like apply for a brand ambassador, you know, apply to be an ambassador. So I was like, well, this is a shot in the dark, but like, hey, you know, you miss all the 100% shots you don't take, you know? So, so I just applied, and I said, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. Here's here's how you can like view my work. I'm also a part of, you know, the Pacific Northwest Shooters, and we host a bunch of events throughout the year. You know, I think this can be a good relationship, you know, and they wrote back and they said, yeah, we want to have you on the team. So
nice.
I was amazed at that. And
that felt really good.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was amazing. I did not expect that. So they sent me a bunch of stuff, and now whenever I try to shoot, I always try to add them into some of my content. Nice.
And then have you been able to include that into those meetups and stuff like that at all? Those Polar Pros with the shooters meetups at all?
So not yet, actually. And that's mainly because like pretty much right when I got that equipment, COVID happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a real bummer, man. COVID has put everything quite the hold, you know? So
yeah.
We used to have meetups pretty much every 2 to 3 months. Okay. And we did that for like a year, and then COVID happened. So yeah, we're dying to get back to the community. We're dying to get, you know, back to the norm, as, you know, we can hope for. But yeah, we're just still kind of waiting for COVID to be through and get back at it.
Yep. Well, hey, I wanted to see if you grab your phone real quick. I was going to have you give me some stories on a couple of your shots from your Instagram here. But I'll ask you first. Whenever, doesn't have to be right now or back in the past, which one are you the most proud of? What is your like one photo you're like the most proud about?
Oh man, this was a tough one.
It doesn't have to be the most. If it's one of them, it doesn't have to be the one. But how about one that you're proud of? Yeah,
I think one of them for sure is when I shot the Comet at Mount Rainier.
Oh wow, okay. That I saw that shot. Show me on here. Let me try to get to it real quick. I saw that in your feed. Let me see.
Yeah, so if you give it like 3 or 4 swipes down.
Show it to me on the screen. Just point your camera.
Oh yeah.
And then I could probably find it.
This one here.
Okay, one second. All right, one. I'm gonna find it. There it is. Okay. All right.
Yes. So, and I think one of the reasons for me it's a proud moment is for one, like I just remember I went up there with my friend Ryan. So Ryan, who I had spoke about earlier, we both really had kind of no intention of shooting the comet, you know.
Okay.
But the comet was here, you know, and it's not going to be around for another however thousands of years or whatever, you know. So I was like, well, let's go try to shoot this thing, you know. And I was like, I think it might line up at Rainier if we go to Reflection Lake, you know. And we talked to a couple people, and a couple more people are like, nah, you won't be able to get it. It's too low. You won't be able to see it. And we're just like, I think it might happen, you know. So like we just jetted off to the mountain right when I got off of work. And I think just the moment of sitting there, it's like 11 o'clock at night,
right,
pitch black in the mountains, and we're just sitting at this beach, or not this beach, this lake.
Right.
And we're waiting for this comet. We can see the comet with our eyes, but it's like not dark enough for it to get like reflection and all that.
Got it.
And it's just like sitting at that moment, you know, doing something pretty technical, like shooting stars in a comet super late at night at a mountain. Like that's not super easy, you know, like you kind of have to know what you're doing a little bit, right?
You don't want to have star
as
trails.
Far as
you need to make sure that all your
right.
you know, your exposure is at the correct time and all that.
Right. Yeah. And so I think just like on a technicality level, I think it's a solid shot as far as technicality, but then like even aside from the shot itself, I think it's the moment of sitting there super late at night, pitch black. You can see all this beautiful sky lit up by the stars, seeing this comet and looking at my friend and was like, man, if it wasn't for photography, if I didn't buy that camera from my friend like 3 years ago, like I would not be sitting
right
here right now in this moment, you know, like this is a once in a lifetime kind of thing, you know? And it was just a surreal moment, just like thinking about just the trickle effect of how everything works in this life. You know what I mean? Like I just, it's amazing, man. I think photography has taken me so many places that I'd never thought I'd ever go, you know, like it's crazy,
man. You were saying earlier that
I love
you miss all the shots you don't take, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. And you, without photography, like there's so many, like I was born and raised in Washington, and I would have never been to any of these places that I've been to if it wasn't for photography, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess that's one of those shots to me that I think the story behind it is more meaningful than the picture itself. Mm-hmm. But the picture came out of it, and that's what, you know, reminds me of it. So that's one for sure that I think is one of my favorites.
What about difficulty wise? What was one of your most difficult ones?
Difficult wise, let's see. Man, let's see here. One's not coming to the top of my head of being like super difficult to get.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Let me ask you a question.
I mean,
how did you come up with the one where you had the puddle right there by, hold on. It was a composite shot, I think. Well, I mean, yeah, it has the boat. It has the boat in the puddle. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. The ferry shot.
The ferry shot. How did you come? Did you plan that one? Yeah.
I don't know if
that one's good. Yep. That's that one.
Yeah,
there it is. Yeah. So
I don't know.
Did you take the photo at the market thinking that you were gonna put the ferry there? Did you already take the ferry photo, or was the ferry photo later? Like, how did that all come together?
Okay, so I had this idea. I just had this idea in my head, like this would be a cool idea. I think it would be a cool idea. I don't know how believable I could pull it off, you know, but I think this is a cool idea. So I had this thought in my head for a long time. I probably had this shot in my head for like almost a year.
Okay.
But it was just like, there's a lot of shots that I have that are just like in my head that I'm just like, I don't know. One day you're just kind of waiting for the right moment, for the right, like,
yeah, the stars
again, this
align.
shot I've had forever, and yeah, I've just, and it's like, it's nothing about the outside. It's nothing about, it's just, I have to feel it, you know, I have to be like, let's try this, you know? And so again, this shot's been kind of in my head for a while, and I would say like, well, I posted that like 2 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. And, And yeah, right around then, I was just like, man, I really want to knock this picture out, you know? So I actually had that fairy shot a long time. Like I took that fairy shot like in the middle of summer. And so I posted that fairy shot by itself a long time ago. And I was like, you know what? I think this puddle thing might work. And when I was initially going to do it, I wasn't even thinking about that fairy shot that I already have with my drone. I was thinking about taking the fairy shot the same day, so I have like the same lighting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And shooting it with the zoom lens. So I had this shot planned out, and I was waiting for the rain, and I wanted it to be like not raining outside, but I wanted it to be like raining heavily enough to where there's going to be some pretty large puddles. Okay. But I don't want it to be like, I don't want the entire ground to be wet. I just want it to be like dry-ish, but I want there to be a puddle still. So I had to wait until like it was a day where it was like heavily raining. Luckily, I'm in Seattle. I don't have to wait very long.
I was gonna say that's every other week, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, the funny thing about Seattle is like it rains a lot, but very drizzly. So we don't like puddles aren't like
it's a sprinkle. It's a light sprinkle all the time.
It's an annoying sprinkle. It's just like, God damn it, you're just enough to like irritate me, you know?
Yeah.
But we don't. It doesn't. A lot of times it doesn't rain heavy enough to where we're like we just have like crazy puddles everywhere. So anyway, in December it actually rains quite heavily. So I was like, December might be a good time to do this. So yeah, I got the shot planned. I didn't know where I was gonna find the puddle. I probably went downtown. I was just looking for a good puddle. That's all I was looking for. So I didn't know what part of the city I wanted it. I just basically drove around town until I found a puddle that I liked.
Okay.
And then
was this the first puddle? This at the market? Was this the first puddle?
This was the last puddle.
Okay.
This was the last puddle, and it wasn't even like I was driving home because I'm like, damn it, I can't find this puddle. So I was driving home, and then I was like looking over, there. And I was like, yeah, I was driving, and then I looked over my right because I'm just passing Market on my left, looking over to my right, and I see this puddle, and I'm like, oh, that might be it, you know? So then I pull over, take this picture, and it's perfect. Like when I think about it, it's like, oh my God, this is like so perfect. It's a Seattle icon,
right?
The Pike Place Market sign. And I'll have the ferry, which is very Seattle, you know, like this ferry is always going back and forth all day long. Right. And so I was like, man, it couldn't be any more perfect than this. You know, this is better than I planned it. And again, I still, at this point in time, I still planned on shooting the ferry like separately.
Right. But you already had this drone shot? You already had this one?
I had this drone shot, and I was like, okay, well, I got the puddle shot, and I think this will work, but now I need the ferry shot. And I was like, well, I'll go back and shoot the ferry another day, but let me just practice.
Oh, okay.
With the ferry shot that I have, you know? So then I was like practicing, and I was like, man, I don't even need another ferry shot. This is like, it works so perfectly.
The angle, like the angles of the two, I feel like, I don't know if you would have been able to get the angle of the ferry that you wanted with the zoom, right?
I wouldn't have. Yeah, I wouldn't have.
Angle with the drone.
It needed to be a drone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have looked a lot different. Well, what I was thinking about, initially the plan was to have the ferry in the puddle, but the ferry be like on top. Like you could see it outside of the, like you'd be looking at the puddle almost as if it were eye level.
Right.
To you,
and so like going past the ferry, you'd actually see the market a little bit. Maybe, or the ground. You'd see the ground. You'd see outside the puddle.
You would see the ground. Essentially, it would be like where the puddle ends, right? Where the puddle ends and you could see sidewalk or street. Yeah. You would just see like
a little
the ferry being a little bit more on top of that. So it's like almost 3D looking, you know?
It's popping out of the puddle a little bit, like it's sitting on top of it. It's popping
out of the puddle. Right. So it was supposed to be, that was the original thought, you know? But then I used this ferry puddle, or this ferry shot with the drone, and I think from an escalated view, I think it looked pretty good, you know. But
it looks really cool. I like this. It wasn't that miniature look too. It gives you that miniature kind of tilt shift.
People were saying it was like a People were saying it was like, it looked like a toy, it looked like a ferry toy, you know.
Right. It gives you that tilt shift.
I was like, I didn't think about that.
That's pretty cool, man. I like that shot.
Yeah,
okay.
so that was a concept that was in. I would say that was one of the more difficult ones. You know,
Okay.
When you initially said difficult, I was thinking of one that was like difficult to shoot. But I don't know if any shot is difficult to shoot. I think when it comes to my difficult shots, it's like the ones that were a more tough edit. You know,
Right.
and yeah, I think, especially as of late, I'm trying to push myself to be. I still want to maintain my photography, I still want amazing shots. Like I still want to still focus, of course, on just having like a really good shot by itself.
Right. The composition, the look, everything in camera.
Right. Yeah, I want those, and I want that to be the majority of my page. However, I do want things like the fairy shot, right?
Right.
Like I do want things to be creative. So
Having fun with that compositing a little bit and doing
right,
something
right.
It's unrealistic, but it's its own art. It's its own art form.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And again, I think with the unrealistic part, I want it to feel like I want you to look at that and saying like, obviously I know this is fake, but it looks real. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I want to, for your brain to fight with your eyes a little bit. You know?
I think it draws someone's attention because they have to think about it. They have to be like,
exactly.
wow, this looks really good. How did they do it?
Yeah.
When they question it,
Right.
that's more time that they're looking at the photo and wondering, and thinking about it. And
Yeah.
it's rewarding.
So another one, actually, if you want to look at this, right below that fairy shot, there's the lens ball.
Ah, yes.
Right below it. So this was a tricky one as well. And again, it's one of those ones that I think lens balls are one of those things where it's just like, lens balls,
Yeah,
not
but you
for
gotta
me,
get the right shot.
whatever. You have to get the right shot, and
This one works really well.
this is one of those ones where, again, it was a really tough edit because what you don't know is this is like 3 shots.
Okay. Explain it to me.
So the first shot is, I could have done this in one shot. It's possible to do this by itself in one shot. And obviously the plane there is fake. I just kind of added effect to it.
But that gives it a focal point to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just one of those like, wow. That's the little small wow factor. That's
Right.
like that's the one thing where it's like a little cherry on top, But yeah, so this shot can be done by itself. It's just, I wanted it to have a particular look. So what I did was,
your hand in the ball is a shot.
so the
Trying to
hand,
guess.
yeah. So the background is a shot by itself. I took a background without anything there.
Okay.
And then, so that's just like looking up at the exact place in the street where I needed to be.
Right.
And this is like a heavy flow traffic place. So like people were honking at me sometimes.
Okay.
Because I was trying to get the right shot. But this is why I wanted to also do it as a composite, because to get this, you probably need to shoot it. If you were to do it in one take, you probably need to sit there in the middle of the street with no traffic for, enough times until you get it right.
Right.
But you'd have to take a lot of shots to get it right.
Right.
Because, getting the reflection in the ball so perfect and, lined up properly is a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, like, the ball is so close to your camera.
Right, and you got to be at
It's hard
exactly
to-
90-degree angle, right? Because your camera's looking straight up, so your arm has to be exactly over
Yeah,
it.
and it's a weird kind of, and you need to get low enough to where you're seeing enough of everything.
I see your motion there
It's
that
a
you're
hard
doing with
shot.
your hand. Are you holding the camera, or you got this on a tripod?
I'm holding my camera.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's like this. Yeah.
Impressive.
So that's how I was shooting. I actually have a reel of me shooting it. Okay. So one shot is the background by itself, and I did that obviously unfocused, so you can see it kind of blurred.
Yeah.
The other shot is me actually just doing this, like
Holding it
with my
straight.
hand forward straight out.
Right.
And I just take a picture of the ball like that.
Okay.
And then another shot is when I was actually just on the sidewalk and I just shot the ball just to get the image inside the ball that I
Right.
wanted.
Right.
I just shot from the sidewalk and I just angled it in a way where it looks like I was in the middle of the street.
Okay.
So it's 3 shots. So the actual shot in the ball was the actual shot in the ball. I just had to like
Take it from one.
Take it from one and put it together, which was really, really hard.
Oh, I bet.
Because
you had to get your fingers out of there too. Did you have to expand the inside of the ball shot a little bit just in case you had any overlay from the finger or anything? No.
No, actually. But another hard part though was like my fingers were in different places in each one of the shots, so I had to remove my finger and then like repaint the building back in where it was like blocking.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this was a really, really tough edit, but it turned out great, I think.
It's a great shot. So
that was a tough one.
I think troubleshooting, what I like about photography and videography and these things is you have an idea in your head and you're like, okay. And that's what I like about composite shots is you're like, if I put these 3 tools that I know, or these 3 things that I know how to do together, I can create that one shot I want to make. And it paid off. And you got this sort of beautiful, incredible shot right here.
Yeah, again, it can be done. Like this shot is like not impossible to do in one shot.
Right.
I just chose to like cheat my way through it a little bit. But by cheating by being like a purist, I'm like giving myself way more work like on the editing end of it. But in the end, it's the same. You know, it turned out really great, and yeah, it's fun to, like you were saying, it's fun to have this idea in my head and think about how I'm going to edit it while I'm shooting it. You know, and that's one thing I really like about, you know, even just shooting like regular photography, thinking about how I'm going to edit it while I'm shooting, you know? So sometimes you're just waiting for like the sky to get like the right perfect color because that's the closest you're going to, I know what my edit's going to look like. So I needed to get it as close to the edit as possible, you know, as like with the real world, you know? So thinking about, you know, that's one thing too about Instagram. I wish Instagram would update where they can like, where you don't have to like 4x5 crop your images.
Yeah.
Cause you know, when Instagram first started, it was just square, right? And then they extended to 4x5 cause phones got bigger.
Right.
And now phones are even bigger. So I'm like, when is Instagram gonna have it where you don't have to be 4x5? You can just post your entire picture.
Right. Eventually.
But yeah, so hopefully. But yeah, that's another thing I think about all the time too, is like when you're shooting your shot, you have to think about the Instagram crop when you're shooting, or else it's not going to work quite as well.
That is true. All right, so I got something I want to try with you. All right, this is my rapid fire. There's like 10 or 12 things. Okay, it's kind of like what you would take to like a deserted island. This, like, you know, you could only take one or the other, or you just like one or the other more than the other, right? That you can choose how you want to look at it. So, all
right,
we're gonna go. Here we go. The first one is night or daytime photography. Daytime. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, I guess like night, as in like black night.
Well, I got a better one for that later. I think I got one that. Okay. So you chose day for that one. Got it. City or wilderness?
Ooh. City probably. That's my bread and butter, I think.
All right. Camera or drone?
Camera.
Okay. All right. Wide angle or telephoto?
Wide.
All right. Now this is kind of the same thing, but zooms or primes? A zoom lens or a prime lens?
You know, I'm going to say zoom because that's what I own.
Okay.
Even though technically, I think primes are obviously like the better choice. I just don't got that kind of money to buy all these prime lenses.
They're beautiful.
Plus the flexibility.
Right, but with the zoom, you have more options. Okay. So this one's kind of directed towards me. Photo or video?
Oh, man. You know, I'm going to say photo, obviously, because I'm strictly a photographer. Right. But I'm getting more into video, and man, it is fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Like shooting video is super fun, but it's completely, they're
different.
Well, it's not completely different, but it's different. You know, it's different enough, obviously.
Your motion blurs and things like that are different. You start to learn that your cinematic looks and things like that, and you're not changing the crop. But one thing that definitely comes over from photography is composition that I learned. I started as a photographer, and then I went into videography. So composition and all those things I learned, and the exposure triangle from photography really helps and migrates over to video for sure.
Right.
All right, so I got another one for you. Ready? Lightroom or Photoshop?
Oh, man.
If you only had to choose one, like, would you want to keep Photoshop because you got Camera Raw, or do you like Lightroom more?
So like, I think I would say this is a quick fire, so I know this is longer than quick fire, but I know Camera Raw exists in Photoshop. Like basically a Lightroom exists in Photoshop. Yeah. So Photoshop should be the ideal answer, but I don't use Camera Raw. I use Lightroom. Exactly. So I'm probably going to say Lightroom.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cause I think like when it comes to my editing, like 90% is done in Lightroom and 10% is done in Photoshop, you know? So.
All right. Here's your next one. We have like 6 more left. We got in camera or composite. If you had to choose one.
In camera.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fast shutter or slow shutter?
Oh man. Slow.
Okay. All right. I agree. I like slow shutter myself. Then this is kind of on that same thing. Would you rather have a wide open aperture or a stop down aperture?
Ooh.
Going for the bokeh, or do you want to get everything in focus? But your stop down also gives you the light, like the you can get the rays, and you can right, and you can do long exposures. But you have to choose one. It's not, you're not going to hurt yourself.
Damn. I would say I like it tighter.
Okay. All right.
I like it tighter. Yeah.
All right. These ones are kind of interesting. I came up with this one: saturation or vibrance. If you had to choose one slider in Lightroom,
vibrance.
Vibrance for
far.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Do you like more?
I actually go like 30 or so on my vibrance, and I -10 on my saturation.
Oh, good to know. I'm gonna have to steal that from you. Warm or cool? Warm. All right. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
All right. That was my rapid fire questions right there. I think
those
you passed.
Those are fun, man. Those are fun. I could do like 20 more of those.
Well, if you have any on the top of your head, give me one. You got an idea? Got one that can add to the list?
Oh man. Canon or Sony?
Ooh, well, I'm gonna have to say Sony because I'm a Sony shooter myself.
You're a Sony shooter, yeah.
But I started on Nikon. I've never owned a Canon.
Oh, really?
I went Nikon to Sony.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've always had this like weird bias, like from the very beginning to Canon.
They have beautiful glass.
Even though, I mean Sony is just no joke either. The funny part is like, in the rest of like everything in my life, I'm a huge Sony fanboy.
Okay.
I have PlayStation tattooed on my knuckles.
There we go.
I'm a Sony fanboy when it comes to everything. For some reason, I just have this like crazy bias to like Canon. The crazy part is like, if I ever choose to upgrade my equipment, at some point I'm sure I am. There's nothing Canon is putting out recently that I'm like dying to get.
Right.
Where Sony is having some mighty fine looking things, you know.
I just like that crossover for me because the video and photography crossover with Sony is like you can just get so much out of the video and you can get so much out of the photography. I always told everyone, this is my opinion, I thought Nikon was photos, Canon was video, and Sony was a combo of both. But from your perspective, it's probably opposite on that. You probably think Canon's more photography, but
I think Canon's more photography. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
I mean, at least in my brain, I associate it with photography. You know, right. I think it probably in part because like they were obviously killing photography like way before Sony even.
They haven't. Yeah.
You know,
for a long time.
So I think it's one of those things where it's just kind of been engraved in my brain for a long time. But man, Sony is not playing right now. They have a statement to make, and they're making it.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I liked about Canon, at least videography for me, was if you ever go from your DSLR to a cinema camera, like you go to an ARRI or a Red, the mounts on those are either PL or Canon. Like you don't, there's no Sony mount. You'd have to get adapters, right? So like I'm buying Sony glass and Sony cameras. If I ever went and got myself a larger camera, it would be nice to be invested in that Canon glass, because you already have all those lenses to bring over. But
yeah.
All right. Thank you for being on the podcast, Jaime.
Hey, it was super awesome being on the podcast. Amazing show you put together here. Thanks for having me.
Any last advice for any beginning photographers out there? What would you give them? A little statement.
Reach out to people. I think that one of the things that helped me grow I'm a very self-taught individual. I like to self-teach a lot of things and well, YouTube and stuff like that. Nothing escalated my growth more than some of my best friends I met through photography. Wow. Reach out to people, try as best you can to just be a part of the conversation. Even if it's not direct messages, you can build a relationship through Instagram just by commenting frequently, noticing their images, reading their captions, responding to their captions. I think being a voice on Instagram and becoming a person on Instagram, and I say Instagram because mainly that's what I do. There's obviously much more in this world you can reach out to people through aside from Instagram, but yeah, reach out and be a voice and be someone that's passionate, and that passion will come right back to you.
All right, bud. Hey, that was really nice talking with you today. Nice to meet you, everyone. Jamie's information and links are going to be down below for all the Instagram accounts that he's involved in. Check them out, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Thank you, Jamie.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, man. This has been another Make Media's podcast. See you later. Wait, stop. Look, there's more things that you can still do. If you minimize whatever video you're currently watching of mine and you scroll down a little bit, there's gonna be this red subscribe button. You know what you do? You click it. Check this out. Ready? Watch. It's crazy. It goes from red to gray. Right? Blew my mind. I want you to check to see if yours goes from red to gray. Tell me in the comments below if it did or not. Other than that, you have a great day sitting at home or whatever you're doing at work or in the car. If you're driving, put down the phone and look at the road. But other than that, thanks. Have a good day.